So this weekend I had a show called Kanyi Muraguri, a retrospective, and this is pretty much a tongue-in-cheek reference to just the body of work that I have. Really, I just started, so calling it a retrospective would just be is a joke. Um, and I'd like to give you a tour of my show, which was down here in downtown Mckinney at the Cove. And we'll start with this section, which is entitled the Kitchen Table Series. And I say so much of life happens around tables, from Thanksgiving feasts to money fights, and the table pretty much witnesses it all. And what I'll do is just go up and down so you can have a feel of the images that were in the show. And I feel in my mind that these are the stages in this man's or this character's life. There you go. This series is based on a body of work with the same title called the Kitchen Table Series by an artist called Carrie Mae Weems. She's an amazing African American artist, and her work was introduced to me by a professor at Collin College, the college that I went to. And wow, she has an amazing body of work, and I just felt like I needed to kind of continue in that tradition, or just pay homage to her work, because it's such an inspiration to me. So here's an image that I call the artist and his therapist. As you notice, the therapist is fast asleep, and he's writing with a pencil, because what this character has to say is not that important. So we move on to the next section. This section is entitled the Vanitas series, and it's based on old Dutch paintings. And in the 16th and 17th century, the Dutch had these paintings called the Vanitas paintings. And the Vanitas paintings just were a reminder to the audience that life is fragile, man. And eventually you're gonna die. I feel like we live in a society that believes that they're immortal. And, you know, I had somebody who likes saying, last time I checked, 100% of us are gonna die. The statistics say that 100%, there's a 100% chance that all of us are gonna die. And he's right. And back in the day, people or families used to go to museums to see paintings just like we do go to movies. And they just would look at a painting, and the artists knew that. So what they do is, within their images, they would put they would embed symbols. And like this. This is a flower that's drying. The petals have fallen on the table. Beauty is fleeting. And here's this character, which is a young whippersnapper me with dreadlocks, which have since fallen off because I had a fight with my barber. And youth is fleeting, youth fades. And those books there are the Bible, or just books. And books last long, they don't die. And there's just so much that you can read into these images. So, and that's the Vanitas series. And so we'll move on to this series called Advice to my unborn son. It was early June 2015, and my wife was pregnant with our second child. At the time, we didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, so thanks to the pool party incident in Craig Ranch here in Mckinney, racial tension in Mckinney was really thick. So I just absorbed all what was happening, and I felt like being the wuss that I am, instead of going to this, hitting the streets and protesting or just getting into conversation with people about it, I might as well just create a series. And so this series is based on something that's called the talk that African American men, our parents, have with their boys about teaching them really to navigate through the world in which they live, where they're seen as a scary person or a scary being. And so I created these images, and these are the advice that's given. Interestingly enough, this advice is not it's not modern. It dates back to the days of slavery. And of course, back then they did not have the police. It was a different world, but pretty much the same advice is applicable, or was applicable back then. This is my favorite image. I always wonder like how it turned out for this character, after arguing. I spoke to a friend and he was telling me that all of this is just common sense advice. It's not just, it's just common sense advice. So it doesn't matter what race you are, really. Don't argue with a cop, really. It's not going to go well for you. So the next series is called Borrowed Series, based on a photographer who I really admire called Edward S. Curtis. And he photographed Native Americans, and not just photographed, he just lived among them. And I can go on and on about Edward S. Curtis, so I'm just going to stop and just say that his work inspired me to create this series. It's called Borrowed. The patterns on the faces of these characters, and I say characters, it's just me, but are based on masks, African masks. Oops, that exposure is really high. African masks that were borrowed, stolen from Africa during the colonial period, or the colonial era. And I thought about those masks which grace the major museums of the world, and I thought to myself, why not just paint them on my face, the patterns, and then photograph myself in certain poses, and make a statement. And so that's really what I did. If you borrow a book about the history of art, and look for the African section, chances are you're not going to find African painters in that section, but you will see a lot of masks, and the most popular of which has this number 11 type looking thing on it, mark on it, and it's a famous masks. So this is these two are one of the very, very first self-portraits I ever did. This one is called White Man. It's about my struggle to not conform with society that expects me to be one thing because I look one way. There's expectations of how I should speak and act. And at this point, I just said, no, I'm not gonna be whoever you want to be. I'm just gonna move to the beat of my own drum. And I created that image. And this is called His Secret. Very many men have breast cancer, and we just don't talk about it. And I felt that an image that's of a man with breast cancer will kind of open that dialogue. This is called Good and Evil. So, which is good and which is evil? You decide. We all wear masks. Okay. Dream deferred. Dream deferred. He loves me. He loves me not. Oh, let's go over here. I call this the artist and his muse. Yeah. Okay. And here's a dragon. It's not a self-portrait. Well, it is. It's me when I wake up in the morning. Other than that, let's move on to this series called the Black Series. And I say here that if you look past the title and the dark tones, you'll notice that I'm communicating on issues that are of concern to me. For example, Lying Dude, which is this one, is my way of adding the reclining male to the thousands upon thousands of objectified nude women that the old masters painted. And yes, this is the bather. The old masters painted bathers too. They all happen to be women. And this is called The Negro Artist. Another title was Terrorist, ? And Invisible. Nice teeth. Black is beautiful, black is ugly. My favorite one, two Negroes arguing in a closet. And it was, this one was my homage to Alphonse Allais in 1884, who painted, he just got a white canvas and just splashed black on it, and then he painted and called it Negroes Fighting in a Tunnel by Night. So I just read that title and I just laughed. It was so offensive, but it was funny. And it just got me thinking about just the exclusion of non-Caucasians in world art history. Like, where are we? We go to museums and we see people who just don't look like me. But, you know, things are changing. Times are changing. And soon enough, my daughter is going to go to a museum and she's going to see people who look like her. And if she's lucky, she's going to see her father in a museum, or at least her father's face. This is a series that I call the Poem Series. Actually, I don't call them a poem series. It's just a series that has poems, or images that were inspired by poems by a very talented poet called Minda Magero. This is Blind. That's Color of Skin. This is called Dances of Glances. And this one is called Mirror, Mirror. Where is his reflection? So, this is called Mother Country, based on Richard Blanco's poem, Mother Country. And I see this character as a man who came to America and is trying to live the American dream. He's stooped over, he's mending this flag or making this flag. And he's trying to live the American dream, but he realizes that he may not live the American dream, or he may not just follow his dream, but he'll have to do the work, he'll have to sacrifice his life working in a sweatshop or whatever, doing menial jobs so that his children or his children's children will be able to live the American dream or just be Americans. What is the American dream, come to think of it, you know? And who's living it? Who is? So that's the artist and his mother. That's my mommy. Not my real mommy, for the record. So that's the show. That is the show. Let's see. So here we are in downtown Mckinney at a place called the Cove, and they allowed me or let me show my work, and this is my first solo show, History in the Making. And we'll just look around and just see the artists who have shown their work. And look at that. Just very talented artists in Mckinney. Look at that. Very, very talented artists. Just walk around so you can see. Look at that. Some of these artists, I know them personally. Very nice people. Very, very, very nice people. And look at that. Look at this. Muy interesante. Okay. So this is it. I'd like to thank the Cove for letting me show my work over here. Annie Roya for making it happen. And second last. Second last is JB. Thank you for making it happen. You know what you did. I appreciate it. And my dear wife who put this show up. As always, you have impeccable taste.